right, everybody. I'm really excited about this guest today. My guest today is Ed Vincent. We'll make it easy, Ed. You're the founder of FestivalPass, which is the world's first festival and live events subscription service. And we'll leave it at that. We're going to dig into this a lot, but I think that's pretty self-explanatory. So, Ed, thank you so much for being here today.
Great to be here, Jason.
Yeah, excellent. Man, I'm so curious. We were catching up before we started recording about, and we're going to talk about this, but you worked at MoviePass. And I'm a huge film person. I use MoviePass. I was a customer. A lot of people were customers. So I'm so interested to hear throughout our episode today how you're bringing that same model into the festival world. Because I used to be more of a festival person before I had children. It's a little hard to get away from festivals now, but we're going to talk about that. I'm a big concert guy, food and wine, all that good stuff. So I can't wait to hear more about this. So Ed, where are you coming into us from today?
Currently in Austin, Texas.
Austin, Texas.
It's a mix of nice. capital music and technology all in one.
Yeah, exactly. And my understanding, I have a friend in Texas. They're like, it's so cold here. And it was like 45 degrees or something.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it cold, but it's coming. I think in a day or two, it might get down to 20 or 30.
That's cold for that's really cold for Austin. Yeah, because we were catching up. Ed, you used to live in New York. I live in New York. It's quite cold here. It was frigid this week.
You guys had the cyclone bomb?
We had the bomb cyclone thing. All right, Ed, let's get into it because we have a lot to talk about. So first things first, you know what's coming. What's something you nerd out about?
Sure. So, and this is the context of my previous companies, but data in general. I nerd out about data, KPIs, and in the recent times, NFTs, and there's a reason behind it. It's not just, to me, just random digital art. There's a lot more to it.
Mm-hmm. What is it? So have you always been a data person? Like growing up, were you a kid? Like, are you a math person? Like what is it that draws you to data?
Yeah, I'm a finance guy originally, finance major in college. I was an investment banker out of school, came to the big city thinking I was going to be an investment banker and love it. I was, and then realized that entrepreneurship's more fun. But that was the really core of it, meaning that I dug in and understood the financial aspect of most things, which is data driven. And then fast forward to the company I had previously to FestivalPass was called Predict Analytics. And we were a data company, consultancy, and a software platform for the entertainment space. So this is the leaning towards the MoviePass conversation we can have. But it was, we had clients, anybody from A&E networks, AMC networks. We helped them understand their entire kind of consumer strategy and built out their audience intelligence platforms for some of the biggest, TV brands.
Yeah, that's cool. I have a client who works at Nielsen,
sure.
And he works on the it's a cool piece of technology that I'm sure you probably know about. I didn't know anything about it, but it's for sports. Sure. So it how many impressions you get for each brand for each sporting event, and it actually counts those things. And that way you can hand that back to the Coca-Cola or Nike or whatever and say, hey, like at the Knicks game, you had 54 impressions based on the cameras and all those things. I just find fascinating because that whole world is now it's all gone to analytics now, right? Like advertising, digital marketing is all about analytics. Very
much so. Yeah. And even, they're slowly getting there today with Nielsen, but, even 5 years ago, one of our biggest clients was Screen Vision. There's really only two companies that sell advertising in movie theaters, Screen Vision being one of them. And, it was really hard. There was an air gap between who was actually sitting in the seats and watching the movie versus who bought the tickets. And Nielsen would always try to put a panel together to get that data and would fail miserably for many times over. But I think they're slowly getting up to speed and actually getting accurate data.
Yeah. Well, MoviePass had that information because you had to use the MoviePass app, and I had to tell you about myself. But if I walk into the kiosk or I walk up to the ticket window, you have no idea who I am. You just know you sold a ticket.
That's correct. And that could have been cash. Even if you bought it on Fandango, you could have bought 4 tickets at once. Who's actually sitting in the seats?
Yeah, that's awesome, Ed. So what's something that's inside your comfort zone that's outside somebody else's comfort zone? Something that that like people either don't like, they won't do, that you are like, yep, I'm all about it.
Sure. I mean, I even found this. I'm part of an entrepreneur organization called EO. Some people might know what it is.
I know EO.
Global. Yep. I've been part of it for 15 years, and even people in my own forum, people outside of it. I forget how sometimes many entrepreneurs who are really passionate about what they build don't really dig into financial and capital structures. So they don't truly know the difference of motivation between a VC and a private equity company versus debt, and what kinds of debt there are, whether it's convertible or, all the structures that happen in the capital stuff. And yet coming as a banker, kind of like I knew all that early on. So when somebody sits down and is like, hey, we're going to raise the money, or we have a capital structure or ownership structure, I mean, that to me is second nature, and I actually enjoy that. Some other people are just glaze over, and they're like, I'll call my lawyer.
Yeah. Do you do any advisory work for other entrepreneurs around
Not
this?
Not formally. At the end of the day, it's a great community. So a lot of my colleagues do come to me when they're trying to figure out structures of what they want to do and how they're going to raise and all that kind of stuff. But so I do it as a friend, not as a paid gig.
Yeah. I think I work with a lot of entrepreneurs. I think that's pretty true. And I would put myself in this. I'm not a finance person. I don't like numbers necessarily. Mm-hmm. So for me, as I'm scaling my business or what I'm up to, I would need help with that too. And I think a lot of people that come from, I want to say this, Ed, because I think you have a fairly, it's not totally unique, but it's great that you have the iBanking side. Mm-hmm. So you actually understand that, can have those, and you can have the discussion that investors actually want to have, versus a lot of entrepreneurs, they need to either hire up for it, or they have a conversation, they don't know their numbers, or they don't know what they actually want. Sure. They just know they need some capital in some way.
Agreed.
So I think that would be very helpful. So if we look at the other side of that question now, what's something that is outside of your comfort zone that is inside of other people's?
Sure. I think in all honesty is I love to teach and inspire individuals, but sometimes the day-to-day operational HR management is not so fun for me. So it's more, I think, about the things that that I don't enjoy. So therefore, if I don't enjoy it, it's harder for me. And I know there's some people that are just great at it, like they're super, super calm and wading through, painful, operational numbers and, filing reports with different states for, different employees sitting in health insurance and all of the things that just my eyes glaze over. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Well, the good news is there's all sorts of companies that do that for you now, right? A lot of the SaaS platforms. But I want to ask you something here. As a founder of a company with employees, and I'm assuming you've had people report to you before,
many
in other places. Do you enjoy the people part of leadership in terms of like when you just have to be with people, or they're having things because I hear the HR thing, I think, oh, you've got an employee who's not performing, and you need to coach them. Do you enjoy that part?
I do.
Of it?
I really enjoy the part of getting to know people's strengths and how they can contribute, and being able to inspire people, and also just sharing the whole picture is, it's in any kind of teaching moments, it's easier to understand things when you teach it. So for me, often, and we have an all hands call, hence why we changed the time of this podcast, but every Monday we have an all hands call with our business, and we go through a whole, there's a lot to the culture that we're building with that all hands call, including how we, always go back to the core values of the company and how we build the mission and all those things. But along the way, what I try and do is I always try and give the big picture. So when I'm talking about, what do we need to do for, marketing, we're having a short call, and we're explaining what acquisition marketing is. We're explaining how different verticals are producing better results versus others. And we're sharing with the whole population exactly how it works, so that when a developer is, putting some tracking code on the site, they know the reason they're doing that is because we're partnering with a big media company that's driving traffic from 10 different brands, and we have to know that. And it's what inspires our success.
I think I really like that for a number of reasons. The main reason is that, I worked at some startups in my career before I went on now do my own thing. You get siloed.
Yep.
You're like, hey, we know, and I was always in sales. So I'm like, hey, I know what we're up to in sales, but I didn't really have a good picture of the details of what's going on in the other parts of the business. And I think and I'm just going to say this, and I'd love to hear what you think about this in your business. But one, it gets you excited about the whole company, and two, if you hire good employees, they might get interested in other parts of the business that they want to go into.
Yep, absolutely.
Do you see that being? Yeah.
I do. And a part of it is, I think most people then can fully start understanding where they can help. I usually leave it as, hey, this is kind of the strategy we're using for social. This is the strategy we're using for email. And then does anybody have any ideas? And sometimes that, especially when I start talking about our heavy lean into Web3 and NFTs and crypto. And, I think there's a lot of people in the millennial and Gen Z kind of age groups that are really excited about Web3. So when we start talking about our strategy, it's so wonderful to hear everybody coming back and saying, well, have you thought about this? Oh, I like this project. And, can we do something like that? And it's helpful.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. All right. So I think this is a nice natural progression here. I'm going to give you 5 minutes, not on the podcast, but you get 5 minutes and you get to broadcast to the world. My podcast is not listened to by everybody in the world, unfortunately. I'd be a very rich man if it was. Yeah. What would you want to speak on? What would you speak on, and what would be your call to action for us in the audience? What would you want us to do once you've given us 5 minutes of what you're passionate about, or what you want us to know about?
Yeah, I think I have 3 daughters, and I always try to live a life of being consistent, meaning that, we all make mistakes in things we do, but as long as I feel that I'm constantly consistent in my messaging to them, and usually that's about kindness. It's kindness wins, and there's an approach to life where it's not good guys finish last. It's actually kindness wins in the long run. And then there's a poem that I've kind of used as my North Star since I've been 15 years old. It's called If by Kipling, Rudyard Kipling. But there's so many lessons in that one poem about how to live life, whether it's, there's one line that if you can look at triumph and disaster and treat the 2 imposters just the same. But it's a theory of how you look at life. And for me, sharing some of those lessons that a lot of people don't necessarily have the opportunity to sit and learn from, I think is powerful. And I give one small other example is you're probably old enough to know who Tony Danza is.
Of course I do. We're probably about the same age.
Who's the boss or whatever it is. But anyway, so I never knew what Tony Danza was really all about, except for his old days. But there was probably 5 years ago in New York, I went. He had he's part of this police benevolent association, and he teaches high school kids how to stay out of the streets and does it through theater and does it through stuff like that. So, but he had all these kids effectively do a play about that poem. And when I walked out of it, not only was it my favorite poem and my favorite kind of perspective of life, but the fact that these 13, 15-year-olds are getting taught that lesson at that age by somebody of his stature, it was powerful. So anyway, it's just a share in that capacity.
Yeah. Thanks, Ed. Well, I'm a parent of a daughter and a son, so I'm going to get some free parenting advice from you right now because it's my show. So my daughter is turning 6 this week, so she's in kindergarten. Yep. So kindness is a thing that I think comes pretty naturally at that age, but also quite unnaturally. The trigger level is very easy to not be kind anymore. What advice do you have for me and for any other parent listening? Your daughter show up and they're like, "Hey, Dad, I don't want to be kind to this kid because they're not being kind to me." How do you do that? Because I think it's just such a natural thing, especially when children are young. What do you say to your daughters about that? If you have, I'm sure you've had to at some point.
Sure. I'm trying to remember the name of the book. And there was a movie that came out with Julia Roberts in it. I don't know why I'm missing the book itself, but there was a line in it. There was when given the opportunity to be right or be kind, choose kind.
I love that.
And that's just that simple. It's you're probably right. That person was probably wrong. Yes, you want to be angry. Yes, you want to go step on their coat or throw applesauce at them. But who cares? Who cares if you're right? Just be kind.
Yeah. I love that, Ed. Thank you. I'm just literally, I'm sure you identify as a dad too. I'm literally thinking about my daughter last week and how we had some challenging mornings.
Yep.
It's a lot of drama in the mornings.
I've been there.
And reminding me to be kind as well, as opposed to get your booty out the door.
Yep. But yeah, I have three daughters, and they all were different. And some it was the hair in the morning, others it was the socks they were wearing, and just.
Wait, okay, hold on a minute. So socks is a thing because our daughter's big thing, the seams on her socks.
Yeah, they have to be right.
Oh, I feel so seen right now.
There's been many a time I picked her up on my in my arms and brought 5 pairs of socks, figuring by the time we get there in the Uber or the cab that she will pick the pair.
Oh my gosh, I feel so normalized because I'm like, this is insane. And thank you, Ed. With that, we're going to take a really brief commercial break. We'll be right back.
The Talking to Cool People podcast is brought to you by Jason Frizzell Coaching. Jason works with amazing people who are looking to find and develop their passion and purpose and create their journey to wherever it is they want to go. Check us out at jasonfrizzell.com, Facebook, or on Instagram. Jason loves hearing from anyone who thinks it would be cool to connect, to be coached, or to be a guest on our show. Email him at podcast@jasonfrizzell.com or DM him on Facebook and Instagram. And now, back to some more amazing conversation on Talking to Cool People.
All right, Ed, we're back. So let's get into some more things about you, some things about FestivalPass, your career, whatever you want to talk about. So this is where nice, broad, open-ended question. So what else do you want us to know about you?
Sure. So I think I always try and say that any business or concept, especially startups that people are building, usually comes from context, right? So it's not that you wake up one day and say, hey, I'm going to build this company. It's comes from years of the why. And for me, that's really exactly what FestivalPass is today. It's a culmination of 20 years as an entrepreneur. And if I kind of go back, and I'll speed through it, I don't want to bore your audience too much, but after banking, I left to start my first e-commerce company, which was fun. We, as a New Yorker, you know some of the stuff we did. It was called City Stuff, and we sold the things that made cities famous. So you can get Junior's cheesecake shipped overnight, H&H bagels shipped overnight.
Very cool.
It was a lot of fun. We ended up selling that in 2001. And then, and then obviously 5 years later, the funny part is one of the guys that worked for me built a of the month club and killed it. he did even better than we did. So I was like,
yeah,
man, he put subscription right into that model. I should have thought of that. But that's context, right? And then fast forward, I had an agency, about a 70-person agency that was really an experiential agency called Vincent Partners, and we brought big brands to big major events, and that's where I fell in love with big events. So we helped launch a bunch of film festivals like the Vail Film Festival, Sonoma Valley. We worked on. We created the Dominican International Film Festival down in the DR that we owned for a few years. That was a lot of fun. And in that process, I really it was all about live events are special. It's a one in a moment time that this is happening. It's unique. It's not TV. It's not a movie, etc. Except there was some really good movies we watched down there. But it was fun. And in that process, I learned a lot about how the way brands work. Because brands were our clients, big consumer brands from, major liquor companies to stuff like that.
For sponsors and such.
Yeah. And we were hired. We also hired to activate across. We had again, I can go on forever, but Absolute Vodka and at the time, an online dating service out of Canada called Lavallee for clients. And we created this Click Get a Flick series where, in theaters throughout the country, people would have like a party in the movie theater and then get to know people, then watch a movie and then meet up after. It was kind of a fun little thing. That sounds really fun. But it was just really how do brands integrate with events was really the concept. And then, during that time, we did some cool things like, you probably heard of Maxim magazine, the big lad mag, which magazines aren't that big anymore, but we partnered with them and we helped them build a hotel down in the Dominican Republic. It was called Maxim Bungalows, and we did a lot of fun stuff down there. But anyway, that was the context to why I love live events. Fast forward, my next business was a software as a service subscription business. It was more B2B, but that's when I really started learning about subscription. It was like, okay, that's interesting. Yeah. If we build a product and somebody pays for it on a monthly basis, we have recurring revenue that helps us predict the future, et cetera, et cetera. So we built that, sold that in 2014. And then I did mention my data and analytics company. And that's when we really started focusing heavy on entertainment, which was my passion. And we really helped a lot of big television brands and film studios and movie brands. Everybody from movietickets.com, before they sold to Fandango, was a client, to A&E Networks and AMC Networks and Chorus Entertainment in Canada and Screen Vision. That's when the infamous MoviePass reached out to us. And they knew we
infamous.
It's a good word for them.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, there's a lot of. So the story goes is they reached out and they knew we had some pretty good understanding of data in the film space, and they started growing so rapidly that I don't know exactly where they were when I joined them. Maybe about 2 million members when I joined it. When I say I joined them, I became their interim chief data officer, but I didn't go in house. I wasn't a full-time employee. They hired my company effectively, and then over the time frame, there's probably 10 people in my company that were doing work for MoviePass in various pieces. Some of it was in data, some of it was in software development, et cetera. But I felt I had a bird's eye seat. Like there's that line in Hamilton, like the room where it happened, or the John Bolton book, whichever one. But effectively, what it means is I was sitting watching things happen. Some were really interesting, smart things. Some were, decisions that, could have been better. But I think the key was I realized that at that point of being part of it, first of all, so many things they did right? Product market fit. They knew consumers.
Oh, yeah.
Consumers really wanted some kind of subscription to go to movies. That was smart.
Yeah.
They also, on the data side, we briefly talked about it. It was the best deterministic data set in the country, basically because it was statistically relevant across all geographies, all studios, and all theaters.
Yeah,
so that was the thing I really dealt with. I was super excited because obviously you needed the app to go see a movie. So I knew exactly who was at the movie, what was their email address, and we were building a lot of great information around that. And they also did great on discovery, right? So when there was an independent film that typically wouldn't get a lot of play, we knew that if we put it next to, number one slot on the app next to the blockbuster of that weekend, people are going to go watch it. And basically, sometimes MoviePass was half of the box office entirety of an independent film. So that was interesting. All those things were interesting. Of course, there's the downside, which was the business model sucked. And on top of it, the way they financed the company was hard. Like it was a publicly traded company. Yeah. When you're burning that much money, there was tens of millions of dollars were being lost a month. And the only way to subsidize that is to raise big amount of capital. And if anybody knows the public stock markets, when you continue to raise money, you end up diluting the current shareholders. So that brings on short sellers, and then it made it hard for them to raise money going forward. There's so many things they could have done to fix it. The big part is I knew at that moment that I'm never going to build a company where when I ask people to do more of the reason they came to my business to be a part of, that I'm going to keep losing money. So so it's hard. You can't ask people to increase the use of your product and you lose more money every time they do.
Yeah, that's not sustainable. And I want to ask you one other thing about MoviePass, because we were catching up before we started recording. I was a customer. We know some of we have gone to the same theaters because we lived in the same neighborhood. My understanding was the next wave of that was, you know who I am, you know what movies I like. You also know where I go after the movie.
Yep.
So then you can start selling me advertising around, like we were talking about Alamo Drafthouse. We know that, do I stay at Alamo Drafthouse for a drink?
Yep.
Or do I go down the street for a drink? So that was kind of the next wave of that. And I don't know that ever fully came to fruition.
It did,
but there was a huge data set there.
Yeah,
but the location based stuff was huge.
Yeah, that is correct. There was a lot of opportunity in that. So there was a strategy, a high level strategy of where it was going to go. But I personally believe the core business model needed to be fixed before that can happen. And that was kind of the problem. But it does bring up, to your point, a bunch of opportunities, right? Is that once you if you can share with your audience, your membership, things they want to know. One, the recommendation engine, right? The idea that, hey, I know you like to do these things, therefore you might also like this. Discovery is a huge, huge concept. And that's something we heavily brought into FestivalPass, and that's something that's super important to us going forward. And we're not just. I wanted to correct you on the initial intro, is just to make sure your audience knows we're not just festivals.
Yeah, please.
We're all live events.
Please. All live events.
So it's so we have concerts, we have sporting events, we have Broadway theater, we have food and wine events. So we have over 80,000 events on the platform that people can go to. But what's really cool about that is when you can cross-pollinate those interest paths. So of course, somebody that's a big music fan or a big sports fan might focus or join specifically because that's their passion. But they're also humans, right? So I love going to concerts, but I also dig going to a Yankee game. I also like going to movies. So the idea that having a interest set across not only one specific passion vertical is a lot of value for some of the things you're mentioning. So for some of those partnerships, where yes, maybe other things can come into play. Like for example, on FestivalPass, we have hotels now. So about 600,000 hotels can be booked on FestivalPass with your credits. So the idea is you're not going to use the hotel concept when you're going to a local concert at a small venue around the corner from your house. But if you do travel to go to either a big sporting event or travel to a festival, you can use our site to book hotels as well.
So Ed, like this seems like the perfect place to transition. So let's talk specifically about FestivalPass. So I sign up. What am I doing? What's the value to me as a consumer? And then how does it all work? I'd love to explore this with you and hear the sales. Well, give us your sales pitch. I'm kidding. Maybe sales pitch, but no, I'm super interested to hear how this all works. Cause I'm your ideal client. Probably I'm somebody who likes these sort of things where I'm like, I want to sign up for this thing and then I want to be told what's good because I don't really want time. So so walk us through it.
Yeah. So at its core, our business model, I'll start with the business model so people can get it a little bit. It's a little more like ClassPass than MoviePass ever was. So it's a credit-based currency. And the reason we've done that is we want to provide discount and value back to our members, but we want to do so with sustainability, meaning that we're able to ensure the price of whatever event it is a certain amount of credits. And I'll explain it in a second, but our members are always saving money no matter what. But we don't lose money. And the point is as long as we don't,
even better,
as long as we don't lose money, we can build a sustainable company over time. So I'll give the way I love to explain it to a customer. And sometimes we explain this to some of our investors is the big thing is we never charge ticketing fees. And that is a big issue for people whenever they're trying to get a ticket to an event. Some of the ticketing sites you go to, $100 ticket, you'll go to buy it. And then when you get to the final stage of checkout, it's $165. And you're like, well,
it's infuriating.
What just happened? What
yeah, it's infuriating.
So it's not transparent. And we're changing all that. We're solving all that. So if it says it's 100 credits when you go to buy the ticket, it's 100 credits when you check out. There's no extra fees added. There's none of that. So the way I like to share is I suspect you're an Amazon Prime member.
Oh, absolutely.
Now,
more my wife. My wife, we're in the top 1% of Amazon Prime customers, mostly my wife, but yes, we are definitely.
And I love to ask this question because it's almost like a Family Feud question. Survey says, of the 100 people asked, 8 out of 10 chose this answer as why they signed up for Amazon Prime. And I'll ask you, let me see if you were one of the 8 out of 10 or the 2 out of 10.
Yeah. Why do we sign up for it? We signed up for it for free shipping.
Perfect. You're exactly 8 out of 10. But did you know not only you did it for that, but you also get free movies on Amazon Prime.
Oh, absolutely.
You also get discounts to
free
Whole
music.
Foods, some free music, some audiobooks. So basically you did it for one reason and you got a bunch of perks as well. So that is the way we like to think of what FestivalPass is if you come and sign up to be a paying subscriber, you never pay a ticketing fee, so you're always going to save up to 30% on every ticket you ever buy or you ever go to. And you're going to get a bunch of other perks, like you get 20-30% off hotel rooms when you book them. Like for early access to NFTs. I know you're not a big NFT guy, but
yeah, I mean, I'm interested. I just don't care about the technology of it.
But there's
I like the money part of it.
But yeah, so we'll be giving early access to NFTs, and we're going to be building a ton of really kind of unique perks, like being able to get tickets before anybody else, or being able to do meet and greets with artists. So there's this like overall community of perks that people get for being a member. And at the end of the day, it's kind of a win-win, right? So we give some of the margin back to our members, meaning that they don't have to pay these ridiculous ticketing fees. And as time goes on, we're negotiating blocks of tickets from specific primary vendors, et cetera, that allow us to share some of the discounts back to our members. So we win because we get to have predictable revenue, and the customer wins because it's cheaper and they get a bunch of perks. And for us, we'll have a lower margin business, but it's predictable, which creates a higher value company.
Yeah. It's brilliant. I'm sure you know this already. Can I ask you a couple other questions about the business model, just because I'm really curious? Are you selling excess capacity? Is that where you're getting most of the inventory
Not
from?
necessarily, right? So we have a large part of our inventory today, and it's not where it's always going to be, but a large part, the reason why we have 80,000 events on the platform is a lot of it comes from the secondary market. So meaning the same tickets you'll find on StubHub or SeatGeek or any of those other kind of places, but we don't charge you all the fees they charge. So basically you can get the same seat from the secondary market with us at a much cheaper price. So that's step one. And then two, we're building all of these primary relationships with venues and with producers of events so that we can get a discount, if you will, a rev share discount from that original producer, and then we'll pass that along. So it's not necessarily excess inventory. It's really we basically have anything you could possibly want to go to. We have. The cost is directly relevant to the supply and demand, but it's always going to be cheaper than anywhere else you can get it.
Yeah. Interesting. So you think, what I'm going to do after we get done here?
You're going to sign up.
Probably going to sign up. Although we don't live in the city right now. But we do have an amazing venue right near us, Bethel Woods. I don't know if you've been to Bethel Woods.
Haven't been, but I know it.
We live 15 minutes from Bethel Woods, and so Bethel Woods, for the audience, it's where Woodstock actually took place. So we had some amazing concerts this year. We have amazing concerts there every year, except for 2020, but that's a very obvious reason. That's really cool. So people want to find out more. It's just literally just FestivalPass.com.
It is. And
then
I was just going to say, and we put a beta version of the app in the App Store, both Apple and Android, but it's the easiest place right now is just online, FestivalPass.com.
Yeah. So as I'm a FestivalPass member, correct me if I'm wrong, that all my stuff is in the FestivalPass app too. All my tickets, if I need something, it's all right there. It's in one place. I think that's another really irritating part for me is I'm like, did I buy that on Ticketmaster? Or did I buy it somewhere else? Like, where's my ticket? Did I put it in my Apple Wallet? So I actually had this happen this summer. I was like, wait, I think I put it in my Apple Wallet, but it's not there. And then I go to Ticketmaster and I can't remember my login. It's really irritating.
Yeah, one thing that's interesting, we have a section in our website called My Adventures. And in My Adventures, it will have a history of all of the events you've gone to, and it will tell you that. And it also has all the hotels you booked. So it's kind of play and stay. And the point of that, and why it's important, is one of the things that I learned at MoviePass was, and you might have been one of them, is people that were using it a lot love to have a history of what they saw. And they were even posting it on Reddit saying, oh, look, I went to 20 movies last month, and this year I've seen 88 movies, and this is my favorite. And it just gave it's a point of credibility, if you will, of like it's like a playlist. It's like a Spotify playlist. People, we want people to go, and eventually we're going to allow people to expose their adventures to others. So it's kind of like, who's this Ed Vincent guy? He's my buddy from high school. Oh, he's been to 60 live events this year. Oh, I want to follow what he's following.
Yeah. There's almost nothing more powerful in the marketing world than FOMO.
Yep. Yeah. So
that's awesome. Okay, let's move along, but I think we're going to continue this conversation as we continue on with some questions, because it's going to naturally lead into it. So, Ed, what do you want to ask me about?
What do I want to ask you about? How did you get into the coaching business that you're in? Is that correct?
Yeah. So I do. Yeah. So I'll just, for you and for everybody listening who doesn't know me, I do executive leadership coaching specifically for tech because I worked in tech for 20 years. I worked at a couple big companies, telecom companies, big data companies. Telecom companies have a tremendous amount of data on you. I worked on the wireless side. So you can imagine as a wireless person, we have a ton of information. And then I worked at a mobile security company. And then I worked at a B2B e-commerce company. So that was, we had a lot of data there. And then I worked at my last stop was I worked at another mobile security company, like a Series B. And then we were acquired by Symantec, actually the cybersecurity company. And then how I got into it is I actually hired somebody as a coach because I was just like, I don't think this is what I'm meant to be doing here. I had a young child at the time. She was 2. She just turned 2. And through working with this person, I just realized that I wanted to go and do my own thing. I always had an entrepreneurial spirit, but I never knew what I wanted. And I'm not a coder, which kind of restricts what you can do in the tech industry. Like, I'm not a coder. I'm not a data person. I'm a sales and marketing person. So I'm like, those are great skills. And also, what do you do with that if you want to start a company and you're a sales and marketing person? You kind of need a co-founder who's going to have something they can create. So this business is something that I excel at because it's something I can create myself. I don't need to know how to code anything. I just buy a bunch of SaaS platforms to help me run my business, which is perfect. And so that's the work I do. I do executive leadership coaching. I'm a facilitator at a tech community. I do executive presence facilitation and training, and I do personal brand strategy work as well. Cool. So I love marketing. So I do work for people that want to grow specifically their personal brand. Gotcha. So I want to go into podcasts. I want to, like a lot of my clients, they write books or they have TEDx talks, things like that. So that's the sort of work that I do. So it's partly coaching and then partly strategy. Very cool. So I got into it because I hired somebody and realized like, oh, that's an interesting thing. Most coaches you meet will tell you that the reason they do coaching is because they hired a coach. Interesting. Because it's not really a thing that for most people, it's not really a thing you understand until you actually experience. So that's how I got into it. And I run my own company now, which allows me to have 2 podcasts and set my own schedule, which is a good thing and a bad thing. And I also don't have to have anybody that reports to me full time, which is also quite delightful as well. I have a virtual assistant and people that I can outsource to, but I have none of the HR stuff you were referring to before. I don't have to do performance reviews or any of that, which is really nice because I spent 20 years in the thick of that stuff. Sure. So very cool. That's how I got into it. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Yeah. Hit me with another one. I like that.
I'll have to think about it. What made you say you're staying in the Catskills versus going back to New York?
Having a 6-year-old who has an awesome school.
Yeah, sometimes it's that easy.
It really is just that easy. We still have a place in Brooklyn. I'm actually going to be there in a few weeks. We have a full-time tenant in our apartment, so I can't stay at my own apartment. But we'll be back. But we left. I'll keep this very brief. We left New York in March of 2020. We left with a pregnant wife, an old French bulldog, and a 4-year-old, and we now have a 1.5-year-old. Our son was born in October of 2020. His middle name is Bear because we're like, oh, he's born in the woods. He's born up in the country. We now have a daughter who's turning 6 this week, and we have a 1-year-old golden retriever. Awesome. So we lost our Frenchie. So we left 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago now. And when we come back, we'll be a very different family. Very cool. So very typical. A lot of the people up here that we're friends with, like my daughter's school is half Brooklyn kids. Let's be very clear. Well,
getting to Austin, it's a combination of LA, New York, and San Francisco.
Totally. They're like cost of living, no state income tax. That sounds cool.
Yep. Well, that cost of living is going up every day.
Yeah, I'm sure. But you still don't pay the state income tax.
Very true.
That's very the nice part. Nice. All right. So what are you passionate about?
Well, I think we touched a little bit on some of that, right? So obviously I'm passionate about data. I'm passionate about kindness. I'm passionate about entrepreneurship. Those are really the things that kind of drive me on a day-to-day basis. And, many of the communities I'm part of fuel all that, right? So whether it's EO that I shared with you earlier or, here, obviously I mentioned I'm really excited about Web3. So I joined the ATX DAO, which is a cool organization of folks that are really into, crypto and Web3. So I'm excited about that.
That's cool. That's awesome. What's What's the thing that you are most proud of in your life?
I'd say my 3 daughters. It's once you're a father, it's the best job in the world. So, try and go through the challenges. Mine are now 16, 14, and 9. So I've gotten through getting through the teenage years are interesting. But again, that's.
I can imagine.
I'm proud that I'm divorced as well, so I'm proud through the diversity and the makeup of kind of how everything laid out, that I can still be a consistent voice and father figure to them. So
nice. What are your daughters, especially the 16-year-old and 14-year-old? I'm super curious. What are they most interested in? What do you see them as doing as they head off into the adulthood at some point? What do you think they're going to do, or have they kind of expressed what they're interested in yet?
Anything they want. No, it's just one of those things that my oldest, she's killing it. She's, as I mentioned to you earlier, she stayed in New York, and she's all over it. She's the editor of the newspaper. She's a Harvard Model of Commerce. She gets A pluses and everything. So she's very determined, but also social and kind and all the things. She's really into journalism and all that kind of stuff. So
nice.
I don't worry that she will have the path to make the choices. She advocates for herself. So she'll decide, and I'll just say, yes, I support you, honey.
Yeah.
And then, and my
good.
middle one's creative, super creative, and probably less on the, bulldog go-getter on the journalistic academic side, but also gets straight A's and is super creative and kind and all that fun stuff. And my little one is she's just a ball of joy.
Yeah, I'm asking this again. I'm my own agenda. I don't know if you remember this. Having a 5, almost 6-year-old, she's literally in exploratory mode all the time, figuring out what she likes to do, what she doesn't like to do, and getting really clear about that. And we just got her her report card. Like, it's, at kindergarten, it's not really a report card. It's like, how are they doing?
Yep.
And just taking a look at like what's she good at, what's she not good at, and like, does it really matter right now? Because it's all exploratory.
Yeah.
So congratulations. Sounds like your daughters are amazing people. And man, being able to combine the brilliance and the smart, the intelligence with the kindness, I think that's something. I don't know if your experience as somebody who lived in New York even longer than I did. I lived in New York if we consider I still sort of live there. I've lived there for about 16 years. I think that gets lost in the East Coast culture sometimes. Sure. Intelligence and drive with kindness is a thing that gets lost. Sure. At least I've seen that too. So congratulations, Ed, on the wonderful family and like doing all the good stuff and still being good humans while doing it.
I look forward to seeing it play out. I was, even through the struggles as a teenager and stuff like that, I'm like, I can't wait to meet them as adults, because my only wish is they come back as solid, kind adults.
Yeah, that's awesome. Ed, what's as we start to close it up here, I'm curious, what's something that you're afraid that might actually be true about you?
Afraid? I'll have to think about that. My apologies. I should have jumped on something. What am I afraid of?
No problem.
I think with a lot of the stuff that I've kind of worked through with EO and a lot of the kind of groups I'm a part of, fear isn't something that really is something that holds me back. Is there's this concept of self-limiting beliefs, and the idea that why should I be able to do something that all these other people are doing? And luckily, I've been through a process that I've gotten past. So like when I first got to New York City, and I was like, oh, I'm coming from a state school in New Jersey, and I want to be an investment banker. I was like, it must be all these Ivy League kids, that are the only ones that can be bankers, and they must be 1,000 times smarter than me. And then I get there, and I'm like, oh shit, they're not that much smarter.
They're not.
I mean, they're smart kids, but there's no magic behind the wall. It's not, Oz isn't sitting there moving sticks around. So anyway, so along that process, you have to be this way if you're going to be an entrepreneur, but you have to.
No, totally.
So I don't have that much fear per se. I think, the only fear is back to the kid stuff, is I just want to make sure I'm consistent, and, always looking back, I think I am. But I was, that's the one fear, is, am I doing enough? Am I, and then, I get reminded often from them and others, you are doing enough.
Yeah. Something that you just said struck me too. Well, first of all, you've gone through grueling stuff. Like iBanking is grueling. Like we all know that's you paid well and it's challenging. Yep. And then you've been an entrepreneur for 15 years. You've run a software company. You've like done things that are going to build a ton of resilience. Well, like you're out like running. It's not like you're running like a floral shop or something. You're running things that raising capital and all those things. So that's the first thing. That's the second thing I just want to say for the audience is, Ed, you're a good example, and you're the kind of people that I work with. Like entrepreneurs are not unicorns. They're just normal people who have a drive and a passion to do something and figure it out and put good people around them. Yep. And I know some, like through personal branding, one of the places I do personal branding, we have some quite famous personal brand clients. They're really normal people when you sit down with them. They just, for whatever reason, some timing, a lot of smarts, but also just being good and kind people. That's it. So, this mystique around like entrepreneurs and startup and these people are so whatever, like not really. I mean, and most people you talk to will be like, no, I'm just a normal person who just happens to like, first of all, hire well, right? Get people around you who do the stuff you're not good at or you don't want to do. And two, just like you said, what I think that's a common thing is you don't let the fear stop you.
Sure. Yeah, you can have it, and it's healthy to have it, but it can't limit you to move forward. There's one thing I want to say about unicorns is this is something I tell my daughters as well. Is it's like, well, I love unicorns. I want to be a unicorn, and I share, and this is something my girlfriend and I say to each other sometimes is that you can be a unicorn, but unicorns don't actually exist. But
right.
Four-leaf clovers do, right? They're very rare and they're hard to find, but they actually exist. So if you're going to be seeking anything unique, look for a four-leaf clover rather than a unicorn.
Ooh, that's nice. Is that anywhere in your branding? Because I really like that.
No, it's not. I have to say it's stolen from a Chris Stapleton song. Starting over, you can be my lucky penny.
I'm a huge Stapleton fan. Yeah, I saw him at Jones Beach a few years ago.
So you probably know the line. It's you can be my lucky penny,
of course.
I can be your four-leaf clover.
Oh man, we could have had a whole nother episode about Chris Stapleton. I love Chris Stapleton. That's awesome.
You can get tickets on FestivalPass. Just go.
You can trust me. I will. He was actually here, and he came to Bethel this year. Yeah. All right, Ed. As we wrap up here, a couple more questions for you. So, how do you see the world?
I see the world as mostly good, and there's a lot of evil in it, and it happens along the way. But naturally, I think humans, and I always say that you can't be a good human if you don't like dogs, because dogs are. They have no agenda. Their only agenda is to love and to be there and all that kind of stuff. So whenever I see somebody that doesn't like a dog, I'm like, there's something wrong with that.
I love that. I'm the exact same as you. I actually have another thing I'm just going to share. I have another thing that I'll add to that will be a little polarizing, and I might polarize you. I'm like, if you don't like dogs or you don't like Curb Your Enthusiasm or Seinfeld, we might have a problem. But that's more of a personal taste thing. But I'm with a dog. So do you have a dog?
Yeah. So it's not that it's always here. So my middle one has a dog, and when she's with me part-time and her mom part-time. So when she's with me, we have the dog. He's here right now because I pick her up for school every day, even when she's at her mom's, and the dog comes with her. And then I have the dog during the day and
so good.
Goes back. And then my
dogs are the best. Yeah. We waited when our French bulldog passed away, and she was our starter kid, right? We had her before we got her. And she passed away at 12, which is a good age for a French bulldog. And my wife's like, I need a break. And I'm like, me too. And then February 26th, here comes our golden retriever puppy. We couldn't wait long. We're huge dog people for sure. All right, Ed. So how can people connect with you, connect with FestivalPass, find out more? And everything you're about to say is going to go in the show notes, so people don't need to write it down. And how can people just connect with all the awesome stuff we talked about?
Sure. So for FestivalPass, just go to festivalpass.com, sign up. You can sign up for free. You don't have to pay anything to actually sign up and start seeing events and checking them out. And then when you're ready you can even buy a ticket for a discount with no fees, even if you don't sign up for the monthly subscription. But of course, when you move up to a paid monthly subscription, you get better discounts and better perks. So do that. Secondly, follow us on Instagram. festival_pass, but I'm sure if you just type in FestivalPass, we'll come up. Facebook as well. So yeah, we're kind of, as I said, leaning into all of that. So the more people that are in our community, they'll find out if they're into NFTs and Web3, they'll find out more about that as we go down and launch them. Me personally, on the business side, I'm mostly on LinkedIn, so people can find me there, just my name. But yeah, other than that, I think that's the best approach.
Awesome. Thanks, Ed. All right. Thank you so much for the time today. It's been awesome to get to know you. I can't wait to sign up for FestivalPass. I'm like your perfect customer avatar.
I love it.
So I'm a big entertainment person, film, big concert person, big sports guy. Although living in the Catskills, it's a little sparse up here. It's very sparse for sports.
Yes.
All
well,
right.
One last thing along that way, right, is the credits roll over. So even if somebody signs up and gets credits each month, they don't go away the next month. So it's kind of like if you signed up and paid.
Oh, I love that.
You know what? If you can't make it to a Yankee game until the spring, so what? I'm assuming you're a Yankee fan, right?
Oh no, I'm actually not at all. I'm from Minnesota.
Oh, okay. All right.
So it's interesting to ask. I am so not a New York sports fan at all. I hate all the New York sports teams, even though, because I'm from Minnesota. Fair. So they beat our asses. I think the Twins have won one playoff game against the Yankees in like 11 years, and they played them repeatedly. Well, this is good for me because living near Bethel, it's only open outdoors from like June through September. Totally. It's an outdoor amphitheater, so that'd be perfect. I can use all those, and we get a lot of great access.
Awesome.
All right, Ed. So last thing, words of wisdom for us, short and sweet. And you've already given us a bunch of words of wisdom. So if you want to come back to something you already shared, that's great. What do you got for us so we can leave everybody with?
Yeah, I mean, the ones I always go to is the If You poem. If you haven't read it, go read it. You can Google it. It's If by Rudyard Kipling. It's very powerful. Mm-hmm. That's one. Two is patience. As an older entrepreneur, I've realized that sometimes you just expect everything to happen overnight, and as long as every day you're making progress, eventually the wins come around you and start fueling the progress.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ed. Best luck to you, the FestivalPass team, and everything you're up to there. And can't wait to follow you, sign up, become a subscriber, and just best of luck in everything you all are up to.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason.
Thanks so much, Ed. Yep. Take care. Bye. All right, my man. Nice.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Talking to Cool People with Jason Frizzell. If you enjoyed today's episode, please tell your friends. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and give us a shout out, or take a moment to leave a review on iTunes. If something from today's episode piqued your interest and you'd like to connect, email us at podcast@jasonfrizzell.com. We love hearing from our listeners because you're cool people too.